When we picture the ancient Roman world, we often imagine emperors, senators, generals, and gladiators. The public face of the Roman Empire appears overwhelmingly male. Laws were written by men, armies were commanded by men, political speeches echoed through the forum in male voices. And yet, women were everywhere. They ran households, managed estates, raised heirs, worked in markets, served in temples, and in rare but powerful cases, shaped imperial politics itself. To understand Rome fully, we must look beyond the Senate chamber and the battlefield. We must enter the home, the workshop, the shrine, and listen for the voices history often softened but never erased. Roman society was deeply patriarchal. At its core stood the paterfamilias, the male head of household, who held legal authority over his wife, children, and slaves. In theory, his power was immense. In practice, women's lives were more complex than the law alone suggests. A Roman girl was born into her father's household. Unlike in some ancient societies, daughters were not universally unwanted. Elite families valued daughters as tools of alliance through marriage. Inscriptions reveal affection, grief, and pride in daughters lost too young. Childhood mortality was high for both boys and girls, and surviving children, regardless of gender, were precious. Education for girls varied by class. Elite daughters often learned to read and write, manage accounts, and oversee domestic staff. While boys were prepared for public life, girls were prepared for marriage and household management. But literacy among upper-class women was not rare. Letters, poetry, and inscriptions suggest intellectual engagement beyond mere domestic routine. Marriage was central to a woman's life. Most women married in their teens, often to older men. Marriage in Rome was less a romantic union and more a social contract linking families. Yet over time, legal reforms changed women's position within marriage. In earlier forms of marriage, a woman passed into her husband's legal authority, but by the late Republic and into the Empire, many marriages allowed women to remain under their father's legal authority instead, preserving rights to property. This mattered economically. Roman women, especially those of wealth, could own property, inherit estates, and conduct business. Widows, in particular, often controlled significant assets. Inscriptions reveal women funding public buildings, sponsoring games, and acting as patrons within their communities. One of the most visible women of early imperial Rome was Livia Drusilla, wife of Augustus. Though she held no formal political office, her influence at court was widely recognized. Ancient historians debated and sometimes exaggerated her role in succession politics. Whether admired or criticized, she demonstrated that proximity to power could translate into real influence. Imperial women often became symbols of virtue, stability, or controversy. Agrippina the Younger was portrayed as ambitious and politically active, maneuvering to secure her son Nero's rise to power. The historical record, written largely by male senators, often casts powerful women as dangerous or manipulative. Yet behind those portrayals lies evidence of their capacity to shape events. Beyond the palace, ordinary women filled the empire's cities. In bustling urban centers like Rome and Pompeii, women worked as vendors, midwives, textile producers, tavern keepers, and artisans. Graffiti from Pompeii preserves their names, jokes, advertisements, and even political endorsements. These fragments offer glimpses of daily life that official histories ignore. Enslaved women formed a significant portion of the population. Their experiences varied dramatically. Some worked in households as maids, nurses, or companions. Others labored in agriculture or industry. Enslaved women were vulnerable to exploitation and abuse, their bodies legally controlled by owners. And yet some gained freedom through manumission, becoming freedwomen who could marry, own property, and integrate into Roman society. Motherhood carried both honor and expectation. The ideal Roman matron was modest, loyal, fertile, and devoted to family. Women who bore multiple children were publicly praised. Augustus even passed laws encouraging marriage and childbirth among the elite, attempting to strengthen traditional family values. Yet women were more than symbols of domestic virtue. Religion provided one of the few public arenas where women could exercise formal authority. The Vestal Virgins, priestesses of Vesta, held unique status. Chosen as young girls, they served for 30 years, maintaining the sacred fire of Rome. They enjoyed privileges rare for women: independence from male guardianship, seats of honor at games, and the power to pardon condemned prisoners. Their role shows that Roman society, though patriarchal, carved out exceptional spaces of female authority within sacred boundaries. In provincial regions of the empire, local customs blended with Roman norms. In parts of Gaul, Britain, and the eastern provinces, women sometimes held roles shaped by indigenous traditions. Tomb inscriptions across the empire reveal women identified as business owners, benefactors, and community leaders. Legal rights for women evolved over time. By the height of the empire, women could initiate divorce, manage property, and conduct legal transactions with fewer restrictions than in earlier centuries. Roman law never granted them political equality, but it allowed more economic agency than in some contemporary societies. Still, limitations were clear. Women could not vote in assemblies. They could not hold public office. Their influence was often indirect, exercised through family networks, patronage, or religious roles. Reputation mattered deeply. Accusations of adultery or impropriety could damage not only a woman, but her entire family. Literature reveals both admiration and anxiety surrounding women. Poets wrote of love and devotion, but also of suspicion and satire. Moralists warned against luxury and extravagance. The tension reflects a society negotiating female visibility within male-dominated structures. As the empire expanded and Christianity spread in the later centuries, women's roles shifted again. Early Christian communities included women patrons, deaconesses, and martyrs. Over time, new religious frameworks reshaped expectations of marriage, celibacy, and spiritual authority. The story of women in the Roman Empire is not a simple arc from oppression to empowerment. It's a mosaic of constraint and opportunity, silence and influence. Elite women navigated political courts, merchant women ran shops, enslaved women endured hardship and sometimes gained freedom. Priestesses guarded sacred flames, mothers raised future senators and emperors. Though absent from the Senate floor, women shaped Roman society from within its homes, temples, markets, and dynasties. Their names appear in stone inscriptions, scratched onto walls, preserved in letters and legal texts. Through those fragments, we glimpse lives lived not in the spotlight of imperial triumph, but in the enduring rhythms of daily existence. Rome's empire was built by legions and laws, but it was sustained by households, and within those households stood women whose labor, resilience, and influence formed an essential part of the Roman world. To study Rome without them is to see only half the empire.